The snow began falling before dusk, soft at first, then heavier, until the small frontier town looked buried under a white hush. Christmas Eve had come quietly to the Wild West, bringing no cheer to the narrow boarding house at the edge of the street. Inside one of its upstairs rooms, Clara Whitmore sat on a narrow bed, her gloved hands resting over her stomach as it cramped with hunger. She had traveled across states by train and wagon, clutching letters that promised a husband, a home, and a future. But the man who had ordered her as a mail-order bride had never arrived. By nightfall, she had realized the truth. She was alone. The boarding house keeper had offered her no supper, only a cold look and a reminder that unpaid guests did not eat. Clara had nodded politely, hiding her shame, then retreated to her room. Now she stared at the ceiling, listening to distant laughter from the saloon and the howl of the winter wind outside. She whispered a prayer, not for love anymore, but simply to survive the night. Outside, a lone rider slowed his horse near the boarding house. Ethan Cole had not planned to stop. He was a rancher who avoided towns, especially on holidays. Christmas had lost its meaning years ago. The winter, his wife and young son were taken by sickness and buried in frozen ground. He only wanted to pass through before the storm worsened. But something about the quiet building and the single-lit window above caught his attention. It was too still, too lonely. He dismounted and stepped inside. The smell of cold wood and stale air filled the hallway. When he learned there was a woman upstairs waiting for a husband who never came, his jaw tightened. He climbed the stairs and knocked once on her door. Clara nearly stopped breathing when the knock sounded. When the door opened, she saw a tall man framed by lantern light, snow clinging to his coat, his face worn by years of hard living. His eyes held no cruelty, only exhaustion. "You the girl from the advertisement?" he asked. "Yes, sir," she replied softly. "If you're here about payment, Have you eaten?" he interrupted. She shook her head. He looked around the bare room, the thin blanket, the empty table, and something old and bitter stirred in his chest. Christmas Eve, no one deserved this. "Get up," he said firmly. "You're coming home." The ride through the storm was long and silent. Clara held onto his coat as the wind cut through them, fear mixing with a fragile sense of hope. She had trusted promises before and been abandoned. Still, when a small ranch house appeared through the snowfall, warm light glowing from its windows, her heart eased. Inside, the house smelled of firewood and stew. Ethan placed a bowl in front of her without ceremony. "Eat," he said. She did, tears slipping down her cheeks as warmth filled her for the first time in days. He said nothing, giving her dignity instead of pity. She stayed through the night, then another and another. Clara cooked and cleaned, grateful for purpose. Ethan worked his land, fixing fences and tending cattle, slowly growing used to her quiet presence. Neither spoke of the past. Both carried wounds too deep for easy words. Winter passed slowly. Trust grew quietly. On Christmas morning, a year later, snow rested gently on the plains. Ethan placed a small bundle on the table. Inside lay a simple silver ring. "I didn't order a bride," he said, "but if you want a home, you can have one here, not as charity, as family." Clara smiled through tears. The kind born of healing. Outside, the land stretched wide and honest, and for the first time, both believed the future might be too.